What's up, Jen and Caesar?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We have the Hisense U7N Mini-LED TV that Caesar looks very interested in.
Yeah, he was really liking the cheetahs. Now, you said 7. Didn't we just do a 7 not that long ago?
Yes, we did the Sony Bravia 7, which is a very similar TV, so I'm excited to kind of look at the similarities and differences and decide in the buying advice at the end of the video if we should just get the Hisense or you should go for the Sony. So let's get to the unboxing.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Let's do it, Caesar.
Let's go.
So first things first, we got to get the TV unboxed. And Jen is not here for this unboxing, but she'll be back to share her thoughts later in the video. But it's pretty straightforward and I think I can handle it. Just had to pop the top here and get the goodie bag out, which has the remote and the power cord and a couple of screws. And then we have the 3-piece stand. We got 2 feet and a plate that goes over it. Now it's interesting because I feel like every year Hisense has a different stand to put their TVs on. Last year, I believe they had 2 feet on each end. This year, they have a pedestal/feet combination, and I like this too. It looks more centralized. Put a soundbar underneath it, pretty solid. It also has a couple clips on the back, so it has a little bit of wire management. So now all we have to do is stand the TV up, put it up on the entertainment center, and now peel a bunch of plastic. And I feel like this is where Jen really would have liked to have been here because there is a lot of good plastic to pull off this. And the screen looked really reflective, but it was a big piece of plastic that I had to pull off the whole screen. And now we're good. And we can get a look at the U7N from all angles now. And let's look at the back first. So we have 4 HDMI ports as per usual, but this year they have 2 HDMI 2.1s that are up to 144 hertz. And also they are not the same as the eARC port. So now you have eARC is number 1 and 3 and 4 are those HDMI 2.1s. So you can still connect 2 gaming systems and a soundbar or sound system. So I know people will be pretty stoked about that. And then you have your pretty typical USB, optical, etc. And then you also have a 400 by 400 millimeter VESA pattern in the middle there, which is fantastic. And you can see they have a nice little subwoofer in there, which is nice. I know a couple of the brands, Hisense and TCL, seem to be adding the subwoofer in the back so you can get a little bit more bass. And I will have to say that the Hisense sounds better this year. It's improving every year, so we can talk more about that later. And then you can see the design in general looks pretty similar to Hisense TVs of the last few years. So overall, I think it's a nice looking TV and it's time to turn it on. As we turn the TV on, we have a look at the remote. This is definitely new and nicer for 2024. I've always said we should get some premium remotes with these TVs that are up above $1,000, which this TV is. And I like this Hisense remote a lot. It has a nice metal looking finish, even though it's plastic. And one of my favorite features besides all the general buttons you have is that there's actually a favorite button. So you can pick what app you want to be used on this favorite button in the menu. And then, that's going to be it. So we chose YouTube TV because that's what I watch all the time and gives us a good opportunity to go ahead and look at the home screen and the Google operating system. So this is the same operating system that all the Sonys use and a lot of the TCLs, to be honest. So I'm very familiar with it. I've told many people that I like this operating system over others from other brands just because it syncs and connects to all of the things that I watch. Like I had said, YouTube TV, YouTube account, my Google account, all these things. So I really like the ease of use. Now, in comparing this directly to the Sonys, it doesn't have their Sony app, their Sony Bravia app or whatever, so that's one difference. But we have Netflix, we have Prime Video, we have Disney Plus, all these different things on here. So there's so many apps you can use on this TV, and honestly, right now, I really like how this looks. But we really need to check out some SDR content to see what we think with regards to sports and other content. So I'm gonna give you like my buying advice at the end of exactly which TV I would recommend. But honestly, watching basketball highlights here, it looks very similar to that Bravia 7 that we had in the house a couple weeks ago. It's very bright, it's very even. Honestly, it looks extremely accurate to my eyes and the color's great. We did make a couple adjustments. Of course, it was on the power saving mode initially, and we turned that to the theater day mode and made sure that the brightness was at 100% just so we could get a great comparison. But I'm very happy with this picture quality. The motion looks great. We adjusted some of those settings to make sure it wasn't too soap opera-y or it wasn't too juddery. It's like right in the 3 and 3 settings for those two that I like. But overall, I'm very satisfied with how it looks. I don't think anybody's gonna say that this TV is not bright enough, and at the same time, it doesn't look blown out or any detail is lost. So very happy with how this looks on regular content. Now, when turning it to HDR, are, again, very satisfied with the results. The TV's in Dolby Vision IQ mode. Looks great when you have darker scenes and the shadow details. You get good specular highlights. Not really much to complain about, to be honest. And my editor even says he thinks this might have the best motion that he's seen on a TV that we reviewed over the last couple years. And I have to say, I don't disagree. It's got fantastic motion. I wouldn't maybe expect that from a Hisense versus like a Sony or another brand, but really, it looks fantastic. A lot of these different movie scenes, whether it be this Luca that we're watching or even in the Avatar Way of Water, everything looks very even, and I'm happy with both the brightness and the shadow detail and the colors and the warmth. It's just a fantastic picture so far. And one particular difference between this and the Sony we were talking about, this Bravia 7, is that there's a really dark scene in this Luca movie in which we could see a lot more detail on the Hisense here. Now, this is the second year of the Hisense being a mini LED and, third or fourth 7 series that I've seen, and I just feel like they have a little bit better control of this backlight system so far early in the year than the Sony Bravia 7. Other people said that they didn't have an issue with that Bravia 7, so it could have just been how we were watching it, but I'm very happy with the backlight dimming control of this TV, and that takes me into some tests that we need to do, so let's move on to that. So let's get the bad tests out of the way first. And they're not terrible, I'm just saying, they're not perfect. And one is the reflection handling test. So this is the second tier down, I guess, from the U8N, and I would imagine that that has a better anti-reflective coating. But this U7N doesn't have a ton of added reflection control. So you're kind of getting a matte version mirrored reflection. So it's not fantastic, but the thing is that this TV is really bright. So unless you're in a bright room and you're watching a dark scene, you probably don't care. But if you have that, you may have to consider getting the higher U8N, but we'll talk about that in a little bit in the buying advice. But that's just one thing to think about. And then the other test that isn't perfect is the dirty screen effect test. Now this is just looking for panel uniformity. Is a white screen going to look white when it moves side to side, or are you going to see some dirtiness on the screen? Normally these ADS type panels, which the 75-inch should be, looks fairly good. There's a little bit of dirty screen effect though when we're watching this hockey guy go across the screen. So in general, it's not perfect, but I think it's acceptable to most people, but just something to think about. So on to the positive results. The blooming on this TV is pretty darn good. Again, this is not the highest end Hisense TV, nor is it the most expensive TV you're going to be looking at mini LED wise. So the control of the dimming zones is pretty solid for a mid-tier TV at this price point. The same goes for the black uniformity. As zones are lighting up and going away, you're not really seeing any issues with the entire backlight system. So I'm pretty happy that Hisense has this dialed in. Now, one thing I forgot to mention earlier, but it's not technically a test, is that this 75-inch U7N is an ADS type panel, so off angle it actually looks phenomenal. And the 65 and 55 and even the 85-inch, if there are 85-inch versions of this, may not be that ADS type panel. They normally source them from different companies. So I'm really happy with the 75-inch 8 and 7 series Hisense because they are that specific panel. So I can't always speak on which one you're going to get, but that's just something to notate. And the last thing we have is gaming. As you can see up there, it says 4K at 120 Hertz. That's pretty cool. Now I know that there's actually a game bar on the Hisense TV, but it was a little tricky to get into it. I actually had to click on the menu button and then slide over into this edit function, and then I had to check the game bar feature because it didn't show up right away. But once I did that, then I was able to click on the game bar, and there you go. You can see all the stats. So when you're gaming, you have 120 frames per second on the left, you got HDR, you got VRR that's on, and it goes into auto game mode. So it's got all the major features that you'd want in a TV of this caliber, and it can even do 144 Hertz at 4K, or you can get 244 Hertz as well. I think it's at a lower resolution though. But overall, the gameplay on the Hisense TVs are fantastic. This TV in general looks great, but over the years, we've been playing a lot of gaming on the Hisense as we have them in the house, and no complaints. If anything, you'd say sometimes the blooming would be one thing, but this year in a bright room here, you see no blooming, full screen. It looks amazing. All of the major features are good as we had talked about. And if you want any more on how this thing games, I think you'd probably have to check out a channel that does a lot more high-speed gaming, but I think it's fantastic. So now we just have to wrap the video up.
Hey.
Boom.
What'd I miss?
The whole video, man.
Oh, it's perfect timing.
Yeah, you missed all the plastic peeling, that's for sure.
I can't believe you did that without me.
Yeah, they're all going to be angry at you for not being there. But I managed. So yeah, on to the buying advice.
Okay, yeah. So are they going to go for this one or the Sony 7?
That's a good question. I mean, to be honest, this TV is really nice, and it's far less expensive than the Bravia 7. That is also a great TV. Unfortunately, neither one of them have great anti-reflective coatings, so they're best used in a room that's not super, super bright with reflections all the time. But at the same time, both TVs are very bright themselves. So listen, if you're going to be watching a really dark movie in the middle of the day, these TVs may not be the best choice. But if you're in an averagely lit room and you're watching, general content, gaming, movies, TV, all that, the Hisense U7N is fantastic. And I think most people would like this. And in fact, my sister has the 55-inch. Now, this is a 75-inch, which includes the ADS type panel. So it's even better from off angle. So if you're wanting to watch this in a very wide viewing room, like if you have couches on both sides, I definitely think the 75-inch Hisense is the way to go, because the U7 and U8 both have that ADS type panel. And I can't speak specifically on how they look on the 65 or 55-inch. And then to think about the Sony Bravia 7 currently, this 75-inch is $1,200, whereas a 65-inch Bravia 7 is $2,000 bucks.
Yeah.
So most people, I would just say, get the Hisense. Same operating system, fantastic quality. But if you really, really love the Sony, obviously people sometimes just go up and get the Sony. That's all the buying advice right there.
I like it. It's pretty good advice.
All right. So yeah, if you guys have any other questions about this TV or others or comparing them, let us know in the comments. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and all that. And thanks, Jen, for all of the ample help you gave us today.
Yeah, I worked hard on this one.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys in the next video.